Hello and welcome, Threadheads. My name is Ashley, and before I begin, I would love to know how you're doing today. Personally, I'm amazing today, but that's mostly because you're here. The theme for this week's video is Till Divorce Do Us Part. I'm sure you can decipher what we're discussing today. On one hand, we have walking red flags. On the other hand, we have people who are so blindly in love that they fail to see the massive red flags waving in front of them. And as the unsolicited advice givers that we are, I thought it'd be good to decide whether or not these couples can save their marriage or whether or not we think divorce is a solution. As usual, if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like. You can subscribe or get notified whenever I post, and that would also help the channel grow. Before we begin, I do want to say thank you for being here. As always, it means the world to me that you are here, but it also means you make bad choices and that you're kinda nosy. But don't worry, I'm just as nosy as you are. Dare I say even more. Without further ado, let's jump into some stories. Ashley read it, and now, so will you. Going over to the relationship advice subreddit, we have a post by Thora Indecisive Huz who says, my 23 female husband, 25 male, asked for a divorce, then changed his mind hours later. Background, we've been together for 2 years, married for 1. We're both in our early 20s. The night of the BS, we had an argument about the distribution of chores that I think triggered it. I thought it wasn't fair that I was doing the majority of the housework on top of being a full-time student at the university and having a job. He seemed to think the chore distribution was fair and that I was overreacting. We came to a solution after all the BS I'm telling you about occurred, but essentially, I was feeling overwhelmed and unheard, and he was feeling stressed and confused as to why I thought this was a problem. Later that night, we were discussing the situation again, and I expressed how it feels like he's not listening to me and how distant he's been lately. Then he says there's a reason for the distance, and I ask him to tell me why. He says that he thinks we moved too fast, he doesn't know who he is, and he wants a divorce. He says he cares about me, but doesn't love me, and that he's been feeling this way for a while. Now, I've promised myself since years ago that I would never try to make someone stay with me if they don't want to. So, as much as this hurt, I said okay. I cried, he cried. I did ask if he wanted to try couples therapy before divorcing, but he said no. We decided to sort out details in the morning. I grabbed some blankets to sleep on the couch, and he went upstairs to bed. In the midst of my sitting on the couch crying and looking up apartments, what felt like hours later, I hear him get up and come to the living room. He sits down next to me and just says, I effed up so bad. I freeze when I hear this because I've barely processed the reality of what just happened, and I can already see where he's going next. I ask him to elaborate, and he says he doesn't want a divorce, that he doesn't know why he said that, and he's feeling the most regret he's ever experienced in his life. He says that he realizes he effed up and I don't have to take him back. At this point, I've experienced so much emotional whiplash that I've completely numbed out. I'd already cried all the tears I could. Now I was just sitting there next to my sobbing husband and saying that I would take him back even though I'd barely processed the fact that he wanted to divorce me. I told him that I wanted couples counseling and for him to get individual therapy, and he agreed. I have asked him about individual therapy in the past, but he never wanted to until now. It's days later now. I've gone through all the stages of being mad at him, depressed that my marriage almost ended, insecure about myself, accepting the reality, feeling love for him, and feeling numb. Cycling through all these emotions over and over again at random. We're searching for a couples counselor, but a lot of them have waitlist right now. So in the meantime, I just want to know if anyone has been in a similar situation. Does it get better? Does the trust ever come back? I feel like I cannot trust him at all now. When he touches me, I freak out sometimes because that's not the comforting feeling I'm used to when he touches me. It feels like he's suffocating me. I want to be here for him and help him through whatever mental crap he's going through, but this has been affecting my work and my school. I left my dream school for him. I can't just keep prioritizing him above everything else when he clearly doesn't do the same for me. And yet, until now, he was doing the same for me. He's always been so sweet, buying me flowers, making dinner, going out of his way to make time for us. And before you scream abuse, please know that I have been in abusive relationships before and they felt nothing like this. He's not like those guys. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. I just don't know how we can recover. Any advice about how to get through this would be appreciated. TLDR, husband asked for a divorce, then changed his mind hours later. I don't know how to ever trust him again. Growing up, I was taught that there are certain words you can't take back. Whatever damage they cause may be irreversible and may take a lifetime to repair whatever damage they cause. To say he wants a divorce is one thing. If that was it, I may still have hope for couples counseling fixing the marriage. But then he says, whilst he does care about OP, he doesn't love OP. And what is a marriage without love? Additionally, what is a marriage without trust? OP doesn't trust the marriage. OP doesn't trust her partner. And OP feels insecure about herself. I think this is bad communication on the husband's part. Why wait until things are so broken before communicating that you feel that there are problems in the marriage? OP appears to have been blindsided by this entire ordeal, and then she's had to pause her processing the situation to help comfort the person who has caused her the emotional turmoil. Whenever I see people suggest counseling or therapy as a fix-all for whatever has happened in the relationship, therapy and counseling should be viewed as regular checkups, not an emergency repair kit. Think of it as going to your regular GP checkup appointments as opposed to going for an entire operation. When you have routine checkups with a counselor, you're able to identify new communication issues or behavioral issues that crop up in the relationship. But when you wait until things are so broken, it makes the likelihood of repair much harder and almost impossible. Also, I'm not going to ignore the fact that they are 23 and 25 and that they've been together for only 2 years, and out of those 2 years, they've been married for 1. And I think this is a situation where even if it can be fixed, I would say it shouldn't be fixed. When you think about it, they haven't gone through the usual hurdles and challenges that most marriages face. They haven't had a child, they haven't had any health crisis or any financial issues. What happens when those big hurdles come up? Will he again say, you know what, I want a divorce? I wonder if he even thinks that there's a problem in this marriage right now, or if he thinks him saying sorry and agreeing to counseling has fixed things, whereas OP's here trying to pick up the pieces of a broken relationship and trying to make reason out of the emotional whiplash that she's just experienced. In the comments, Frady Cat says, "This is why I don't think people should get married in their early 20s. Your brains are still developing." And OP responds, "I used to think the same. We were going to wait longer, but we had to get married to get him a visa to live with me while I attended my dream school, which I gave up for him later on. I regret leaving that school. I just thought there would be other opportunities and he loved me, so what could go wrong?" This came to me in a dream says, "He was definitely talking to the side piece that rejected him while you cried yourself to sleep and then came back to you faking he was sorry. He didn't know who he was. He didn't even want therapy, but 1 second to another he does. I don't think so. And even if he wasn't cheating, you don't treat someone you love like that and scream divorce over a minor disagreement that would have been solved with just peaceful conversation or the already mentioned couples therapy." And OP says, "There's no signs of him cheating. I checked his phone. We share locations already for safety reasons, and he hasn't been anywhere suspicious." Headbril says, "You two are really young. The odds are so stacked against you that I can't see this working out. Given he's already almost divorced you, I would recommend marriage therapy, which you're already trying to get into. If it's a long wait, find someone healthy you can turn to, a religious leader, your wedding officiant, an older married couple who you're both comfortable with, your parents, whomever. Find someone to help you talk through these issues ASAP Secondly, prepare for your marriage to fail because the odds aren't good. That means wait to have children until your marriage has been stable for at least a year. Graduate your degree program. Pour yourself into your career so you can support yourself. Do not make any big sacrifices for this marriage. Do not move for his career. Do not get your tubes tied if he doesn't want kids. No big sacrifices. You will still make daily sacrifices, that's marriage, but don't sacrifice anything that's difficult to come back from. And OP responds, pouring myself into school/work is definitely my priority now. I'm done always putting his needs before my own. There is an update to this story, but I also did check on OP's page to see if there were any other relevant posts made. There are some heartbreaking posts by OP where, first of all, they were asking if their husband was abusive. I think people in the comments of her first post were letting her see that there are more types of abuse besides being physical abuse. Then OP made a next post where she said she felt trapped in her marriage and couldn't tell anyone. She discussed how she found herself constantly monitoring his emotions and looking into his eyes to see if he was still there or if they were vacant like they were the day he said he wanted a divorce. And apparently on that day, she found messages of him crap talking about her to his best friend. A year later, OP says, 1 year ago, I, 24 female, made this post asking for advice on how to continue my relationship after my now ex-husband, 26 male, betrayed my trust by telling me he wanted a divorce out of the blue and then changing his mind just a couple hours later. As stated above, he is now my ex. Those of you who said he would repeat the same behavior again, you were right. On New Year's Day 2024, he said he wanted a divorce, packed a bag, and left to a motel, then came back hours later. I'll admit, I was a wreck that day. I asked him if this was just going to be like last time, and he said no. I asked him if he felt mentally okay, and he said he felt fine. I got on my knees and begged this man to stay. Not my proudest moment, and he looked at me with empty, vacant eyes and just left. I was in tears for a couple hours, but then I opened this app to try to distract myself and saw that he made a now deleted "please don't go looking for his account" post on the divorce subreddit about how he left me and felt bad but didn't regret it. Then I went from depressed to furious. I called my landlord and told him I was getting a divorce and needed his help in changing the locks. My landlord was very understanding and helped me to do so. A few hours later, I heard a knock on the door, and when I opened it, my ex-husband was standing there. I didn't even get a chance to tell him to leave because he immediately collapsed into my arms, sobbing. The first coherent words to come out of his mouth were, "You're not gonna take me back, are you?" Reddit. I would love to say that I rejected him right then, but I didn't. Even after all of this, I was still hooked into his web of manipulation. So instead, I sat down with him and had a long discussion about how much he hurt me, how, in the middle of working to rebuild the trust that had been broken between us, he completely destroyed any progress that had been made and found a way to make that distrust even worse. I don't remember the details of what he said, but he always knew what to say to get me to feel sorry for him. The night ended with me saying I would take him back. He was smiling, saying he'd never felt so hopeful. He wrote me a love poem that night, for the first time in years. Meanwhile, I had never felt so broken, and I told him that after he said he felt so hopeful. He shrugged it off and said I'd feel better in the morning. I did not, in fact, feel better in the morning. During the next few days, while I was trying to pick myself back up, study for finals, and continue going to work as if nothing was wrong, he went back and forth every day on whether or not he loved me, whether or not he wanted to be married to me. He said he thought he loved the idea of being a husband more than he loved me. My last straw was when I reached out to one of his childhood friends, who I had interacted with a few times and thought I could trust to be honest with me, and asked him if he had ever noticed any red flags in my ex-husband's behavior in his past relationships or behavior towards women in general. This friend assured me that he had never noticed anything of the sort. I thanked him and asked if he could please not tell my ex-husband that I asked about it, since I was afraid of what he might do. When my ex-husband came home from work that day, I could immediately tell he knew. He opened the front door so forcefully, he sat down on the couch next to me and told me that he knew, and said in a low and almost growling tone of voice, "But I know you didn't mean any harm by it." I was frozen in fear and couldn't say anything, but then he grabbed my face and turned my head to look at him, and his eyes looked so cold, and he said again, "You didn't mean any harm by it, right?" I nodded and forced myself to answer, "Right." I knew in that moment that this man would unalive me if I didn't find a way out of this relationship, if I didn't unalive myself first with how bad my mental health was getting after dealing with him insulting and belittling me day after day. I was genuinely starting to spiral into a dark place I hadn't been to in years. The next day, while he was at work, I packed a bag, wrote a note telling him I'm leaving and that I want his stuff out of the house when I get back. I left the note on the counter with my ring and spent the night at my mom's. It is an uncontested divorce, filing by mail, and should be finalized in April, which context is the next month. I started the paperwork at my mom's house the first night of separation. Since ending my relationship, I have gone to therapy and realized just how abusive and manipulative my ex-husband was. I also understand how broken he is, but being mentally unwell is not an excuse for abusive behavior. What he did to me was abuse, and I'm not afraid to say that anymore. I have reconnected with old friends and made new ones. I have started doing things that I love again, things he never wanted me to do, like wearing red lipstick or eating mint-flavored things and going to concerts. I've realized I never want to be married again. I've discovered my polyamorous identity and have begun to explore this side of myself. I have plans to move out of my hated hometown that he dragged me back to. I feel so much more joy, freedom, and self-love than I ever did when I was in a relationship with my ex-husband. I won't be using this account anymore after this, as I have no need to, but I want to thank this community and other Reddit subs that I've participated in. If I had never made my original post, I don't think I would have realized how awfully my ex-husband treated me. Thanks to the support of hundreds of voices telling me I deserved better, I realized how true that statement was. I deserve better, and now I have better. I also want this update to be a beacon of hope to anyone who has found themselves in a similarly, emotionally, or verbally abusive situation. Life is so much better when you leave. There is hope and there is light on the other side of the pain. Thank you again, Reddit. I am finally free. He showed his true colors when he thought he had OP roped in. I'm so glad OP made that initial post, but I will leave this with you guys. If you have any thoughts on the story that we just discussed, I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, I'm going to take a sip from my tea and then we'll move to the next story. This next post comes from the AITAH subreddit by Mediocre Assist 3643. They ask, am I the a-hole for refusing to let my husband's daughter move in with us because she has a history of stealing from me? I know this is going to sound harsh, but I really need some perspective. I, 37 female, have been married to my husband, Mark, 45 male, for almost 5 years. He has a daughter, Emily, 17 female, from a previous relationship. I have no children of my own, even though I always wanted them, and Emily lives with her mom across the state. Let's just say Emily and I have never gotten along. I've tried, truly, but from day one, she made it clear she didn't want anything to do with me. She's polite around her dad, but cold towards me. I accepted that, gave her space, and tried not to take it personally. Then about 2 years ago, things escalated. She came to stay with us for a week during summer break. During that time, my wedding ring went missing. We later found it in her backpack. I also had a bottle of prescription anxiety medication disappear. Turns out, she was using them to, quote, help her sleep. My expensive makeup, skincare, and even underwear mysteriously vanished. When I confronted her gently, and yes, I mean gently, she flat out denied everything and sobbed to Mark that I was accusing her because, quote, she's not really my kid. He took her side, claimed she was acting out due to divorce trauma and that I should be more understanding. After that visit, I told him I'm setting a hard boundary. I don't want her unsupervised in our home. Now, fast forward to last week, Emily's mom is apparently moving to another country with her new husband, and Emily doesn't want to go. She asked if she could move in with us full-time for her last year of high school. I said no. I know this makes me sound heartless, but I told Mark I wasn't comfortable having someone under my roof who has stolen from me, disrespected me, and clearly doesn't like me. I said I would support him finding a solution, even renting a small place nearby, if he wanted to live with her, but I wouldn't share my space with her. Mark was silent for hours, then he told me he was disappointed that I never truly accepted her and that I was punishing a teenager for a mistake she made at 15. Now he's been sleeping on the couch and barely speaking to me. His sister even messaged me and called me a wicked stepmother. I don't think I'm wrong for protecting my peace and my space, but now that everyone is calling me the villain, I'm second guessing. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to let my husband's daughter move in with us? Listen, it's one thing for a teenager to act out because of something going on in their personal life, but it's a different thing for the parents to not even try to fix the teenager's behavior and then try to blame people who are pointing out the problem. And then Mark has the audacity to then tell his sister about it, who then calls OP an evil stepmother. Whenever I read posts and people are attacking OP for their decisions or their actions, I always wonder, well, if you're so upset, why don't you house her? My biggest issue in all of this is Mark's inability to see his daughter's behavior as alarming. If you're aware that she's acting out because of your divorce, why haven't you tried helping her navigate her emotions? Personally, I would remove myself from this equation because it's one thing to have someone who is behaving badly. It's another thing for everyone around you to not see that person's behavior as bad behavior. But I would like to know if you guys think this is a fixable issue or if you think divorce. I think the only way to fix this is if Mark is willing to see Emily's behavior as something that needs to be addressed. But with how he's going about it, I don't think that's going to be likely. Tiger of Jiangdong 1337 says, "Unfortunately, I think your marriage is over. If I were you, I would very quietly separate finances if they aren't already, cancel any shared credit cards, and consult a lawyer. If the house is not in your name, then start looking for places to live." For me, as soon as he kept defending her without making her get serious help, I would have been out. Your husband and his ex are terrible parents. The second deal breaker would be involving his sister. You don't sound heartless, but your husband sounds like a terrible husband and a worse father, not the a-hole. Odd End 1405 says, "Not the a-hole. My husband had a niece who stayed with us for a summer at 14, stole or tried to steal, found in her bags quite a lot of my belongings. I refused to have her back. Eventually, I was browbeat into letting her come back because, quote, she was a child, she's changed, she was acting out. Does that sound familiar?" Guess what happened when she visited at 25? More items went missing, including money from my purse. Again, her uncle found the items in her bag. When you raise a thief, it does not change without parenting and consequences, neither of which appear in your husband's repertoire. This will probably end your marriage, so you need to decide disrespectful thief or your marriage. Your call. Good luck. Catch Me If You Can 09 says, "I would push back, but that's me. If she made a mistake at 15, then she should have had consequences for that mistake at the time. You chose to dismiss her actions, enable her attitude, and essentially disregard and disrespect the fact that I was the one targeted. I set a boundary and let it go. You're the one who is now ignoring my boundaries. This is a you problem. I'm willing to work with a therapist to find a good solution, but you're the one over here ignoring my boundaries and gaslighting me to think her behaviors are my fault. Lastly, It's super easy to compartmentalize and accept her as your daughter. However, I'm not required to tolerate her in my home. Accepting her isn't the problem, and the fact that's where you think the problem is speaks volume about the fact that you're incredibly enabling her attitude and using your guilt of not being there full-time as a crutch to ignore her poor character and manipulative behavior. Now, a downvoted commenter, which for people who don't know what that means, it means people hit that dislike button so much on their comment. They said, "You're the a-hole. She is his child, his responsibility. If you marry him, you marry his responsibilities, obligations, etc. Saying you won't allow your teenage stepdaughter to live in your home is wrong. He should divorce you and take care of his kid. Being with you is a choice. Taking care of his child is not a choice. Yes, you are absolutely the a-hole." And OP responds and says, "You are right. She is his responsibility," which makes it even more concerning that he hid her existence from me until after we were married, refused therapy, and let her steal from me without consequence or apology. OP's account is deleted, but they did post an update before they deleted their account. And they say, "Hi again. I want to thank everyone who commented. Some of you had some interesting takes, but I respect them. I posted an ETA addressing a few things people kept asking. So just to clarify again, the house is mine. I didn't know about Emily until a few months after the wedding. She has never apologized or taken accountability for stealing from me. I suggested therapy, both she and my husband refused. A lot of people told me this isn't just about Emily, and they were right. This is also about the fact that Mark lied to me about his life. Mark lied to me from the start by hiding his daughter, and when the situation got hard, he chose to ignore it. He let me doubt myself, made excuses for her behavior, and called me selfish when I finally put my foot down. Frankly, I think that this relationship is over. I thank everyone who kindly helped me to wake the F up. Since the last post, I spoke to a lawyer. I'm not filing for divorce right now, but I needed to understand what my options were. I have started protecting my finances and getting my documents in order. I have gotten messages from his family and Emily's friends. They were harassing me for my boundaries. Thankfully, I have an amazing family and amazing friends to defend me and help me through this situation. Now, with Mark, I talked to him and we got into an argument. I ultimately decided to kick him out, and I think he's leaving with his sister, who called me a witch. I don't know what will happen now with Emily because I do not know if she was the one who sent her friends to harass me. I am considering reaching out to talk to her and possibly get coffee. I really want to just model everything down with her. Mark has also been an absolute deadbeat because he is not taking in his daughter when he literally berated me for not letting her in our home. The irony is crazy. This is all the information I have right now. I will give an update if anything happens and if Emily accepts my offer for coffee. I think it's still very telling that her aunt hasn't offered to take her in. It's always funny to me how the family will try to harass that one person to do something that they know they won't put up with. Why hasn't anyone offered their house for Emily to stay in? But of course, OP is the bad guy for saying no while they find a way to avoid saying no and avoid saying anything at all because they shift the blame to OP. In her update, OP doesn't confirm whether or not there is a divorce, and they have deleted their account, so we can only speculate what has happened. I would like to know what you guys think. With Emily, I can't fully blame her because there are adults. She is still 17, so technically she is still a minor. Meanwhile, her parents are grown adults who are choosing to blame someone else, then blame themselves for their daughter's behavior. But do let me know what you guys think in the comments. In the meantime, I'm going to take a sip from my tea, and then we'll move to the next story. Under the relationship advice subreddit, Throw Raw Draft Cassette says, I, 27 male, discovered my wife's 30 female family was behind my vicious cyberbullying attack. My wife knew, but she hid it for years. How do I move past this? My 27 male marriage is in a really bad spot after a deep breach of trust. I don't know how to recover or how to trust my wife, 30 female, again. For some context, we've been together 7 years and married 5. We have a child, 2 male. We met at a con. I thought her cosplay was amazing, struck up a conversation, and the rest is history. She is the most loving, unselfish, and decent person I've ever met. Our relationship was never without its challenges. Our biggest obstacle was her family. My presence was unwelcome. They are a very close-knit family. If one doesn't accept you, then you're not getting far. There are a few family members who broke away from the pack, but no one acknowledges them. They are no contact and black sheep. I didn't know how my wife's family was, but I did know family was extremely important to her. Her whole upbringing was based on family, so I tried everything in my power to make it work. They didn't really put up with me until our son. Between our wedding planning to shortly before the wedding, I was the target of some relentless and vicious cyberbullying. It got personal. Fake bad reviews polluted my business profile too. It cost me some potential clients. I didn't know where it came from or why. I couldn't find a solution. I would report it, but it would take a while for anything to be done, or there would be more accounts coming out for another round. The whole thing impacted my life and my mental health. It took a toll. My wife was incredibly supportive. She was my rock and my best friend. I loved her even more for her care and how she held me down. Then, the trolling and everything stopped. I wanted nothing more than to move on. I put it all behind me until the other day, my wife confessed that her family was behind the harassment. I didn't believe her at first, but she was serious and showed me proof in the family group chat. It felt like I was right back there again. They were gloating and justifying themselves, saying stuff like, "Some people have got to learn the hard way," and "If he wants to join the fold, here's his initiation." I knew I wasn't their favorite person, but I never realized they hated me and would go to such extremes. I asked my wife when she found out and if she was a part of it. She swore she wasn't and that she'd never do that to me. She claimed she didn't initially know it was her family until a few months before our wedding. One of my sister-in-laws, 28 female, left a profile up on her phone and my wife saw it. She confronted her family and made them stop. I asked why she was telling me everything now. She said it was weighing on her and she opened up to her elder sister, 35 female, one of the family's black sheep. She threatened to tell me the truth if my wife didn't. Nothing my wife said made it better. She knew for years what her family did and hid it from me. She kept everything quiet. It hurts more coming from her because she knew firsthand my pain. I was pretty numb. My wife was anxious and kept pushing me to say something. I told her there wasn't anything she could say right now that would make it okay. What she did was no better than her family. They made my life hell, and her first instinct was to cover for them. She started crying and begged me to understand. She said it wasn't like that, and she was trying to make things right with as little damage as possible and mend relationships. I wasn't very receptive to her. She wasn't reaching me. I couldn't help her or myself. I told her I needed some time to clear my head. She was against it. She said we could work through this together, but I was firm on space. Space isn't a request she respected. I'm really trying to understand her side. I'm trying to move past it, but I feel so betrayed. I trusted her more than anyone. I'm my most vulnerable with her. I kept opening up to her about the incident even after she knew the truth. She encouraged me to let it go and not allow it to have any claim on me. I thought she had my best interest in mind. Now, I just see it as her attempt to protect her family yet again. I haven't confronted anyone involved. I don't think they're worth it. But I've made it clear they're no longer allowed to see our son until further notice. Now I'm getting text about how I'm depriving my child of grandparents and aunts over past family spats. One of the hardest parts is the distance from my wife. She's my best friend and partner in every way. Now, we're only mostly communicating about our son and other household necessities. She's hurt by my rejection and she's been crying often. I don't know if I'm being unfair to her. I hate all of this. I want to make our marriage work, but I'm questioning our relationship up to now. I'm just really lost. I need an outside perspective. How do I navigate the situation and move forward for my marriage and myself? For me, if this marriage or the situation can be fixed, I think it starts with OP's wife acknowledging that her family are very, very toxic people. I would say almost cult-like, because in a cult, you cannot question things. You cannot have your own opinions. You almost have to think as a collective and isolate themselves from others who they think have differing beliefs than them. They don't sound like a family to me. OP's wife may have subconsciously said she was doing this to protect her husband, but if she's being honest with herself, this is most likely part of the programming this family has embedded in her. She cannot prioritize protecting her family over her son and her husband. I think I'm going to say not divorce, but that is a conditional statement. It has to involve actual changes to go low contact or no contact with her family, identifying why she did what she did. Couples counseling can help. I will give her kudos for stepping up and confessing, even though that's very partial, because she's mostly done it as a result of her older sister threatening to tell OP. And it's very sad because OP speaks so glowingly of her, so I cannot imagine how heartbroken he is to find out that the main reason he loves her so much is something that she was aware of and hid from him as a result of her trying to protect the instigators. Gino Flowers says, I think what is bothering me the most is that your wife is still not getting it. She doesn't understand how vile her family is, and if they did this once, they could do it again. They took your money, your peace of mind, your confidence. Even though she stopped it, she never told you, leaving you to wonder why and who. And, quote, past family spats. It's not like this was a little tiff and they apologized and you won't let it go. I would suggest therapy for you both, and I don't even know. At the very least, you will learn how to co-parent together if you cannot save your marriage. Maybe a therapist can get her to see how huge this is. And OP responds, I don't know. It's like my wife is not getting where I'm coming from or just doesn't want to go there. Her family never even apologized. They're making it out like I'm holding grudges. Bis Joe says, also realize she didn't tell you because she wanted to. She only told you because someone else threatened to tell you and she wanted to control exactly what was said. If I were you, I would want to speak to the other person who knew, i.e. the black sheep. It's such a huge breach of trust. She aided her relatives in trying to destroy your livelihood and self-worth. I can't see any reason why you would want to remain married to someone who clearly doesn't value you or really love you and has demonstrated that she loves and places her family above you. And OP responds and says, I do think I want to talk with the elder sister too. The reason why I would consider staying is because things weren't always like this between my wife and I. She's not consumed with her family when boundaries are in place. We were better and did not have secrets from each other. We built a life together. HDMX539 says, she doesn't want to go there because that would make her responsible and accountable for the fact that she withheld information from you that concerned people who were harassing and bullying you. She still doesn't want to hold herself accountable. She was part of the harassment the moment she decided to keep the information from you. Also note this, she wasn't going to tell you until she was threatened by her older sister to reveal the information. It was only then that she decided to tell you because she knew it would be worse. She's only ever considered herself in this. She still isn't considering you. This is her and her family. Believe her. So OP does return with an update 1 week later, and he says, thank you to everyone who reached out. I, 27 male, wasn't able to reply to everyone, but it was appreciated. It solidified my wake-up call and helped me see I wasn't overthinking. I wanted to give an update. Earlier this week, my wife, 30 female, and I were able to regroup and hash stuff out. I was glad I took the space I did, because even though the situation is still hurtful and feels like a massive betrayal, I was in a better position to talk. My wife thought I was calling it quits, but I told her we were at a crossroads and needed to talk things out. She apologized for what her family did and her role in it. She said she never intended to hurt me. She had convinced herself she was protecting me from more pain. She realizes now that she was largely protecting herself. She admitted she was afraid of telling me the truth because she thought it wouldn't just end the wedding, but that I would end the relationship. She lost other relationships and friendships over her family. She didn't want to lose me too. Over the years, she wanted to tell me, but kept talking herself out of it. And then the cover-up kept getting bigger, and she didn't know how to confess. I told her I didn't agree with her choices, and I wish she had more trust in me and our relationship. I meant it too. I wouldn't have just ditched her. She asked where we go from here and promised no matter the outcome, there wouldn't be any more secrets between us. I told her I wanted to work on our marriage, but things needed to change. We couldn't survive with her family looming, and I didn't want our son exposed to them. She asked what I needed from her. I was never big on ultimatums, and I don't really consider this as one, but I was adamant that any path of us moving forward together would mean radical boundaries with her family. She was honest that the thought of making this big of a move against her family was scary, but said if it was between them and us/our son, 2 male, then she chooses us. Her agreement was major for me because I didn't really know where she would land if she had to choose. I never wanted to put her in that position, but after everything her family did, I feel there's no other way. The reason I have hope that my wife is being for real is because she sent a text to their group chat stating to stop blowing up my phone and that no access with our son until further notice was a joint decision she fully supports. I didn't expect that of her. She did it on her own. Of course, they didn't like it. Now she's labeled as disrespectful and ungrateful, and how the black sheep elder sister and I are poisoning her against them. It was also said, quote, "What kind of a man takes a woman away from her family over a spat?" This isn't a spat, nor do I have anything to prove about manhood. They led a whole campaign designed to ruin my life. Their actions are chilling to me. These are the same people who looked me in the eyes with a straight face while everything was going on. This is about protecting my family. My wife has gone low contact. Her family has this mindset that significant others or friends come and go, and it's family who is constant and where loyalty should be. They can't seem to compute that my wife, our son and I are the core family. They are extended family, and they don't have a claim over our son. Being involved with him is a privilege, not a right. I don't know what their exact issue is with me. They only really tolerated me because of our son. When I first met them, one of my wife's siblings, 28 female, said they thought my wife was settling for me because of age and that she could do better. They are a very tight-knit group, and if one doesn't take to you, then you're not getting far with the rest. It felt like once their minds were made up, there was nothing I could do. I've long since stopped trying to make sense of any of the reasonings. It's a rabbit hole. Our plan is to move to a new area to create a healthier distance, cement boundaries, and have a fresh start. I brought up therapy too. It's something we've been discussing. We'll be officially starting that soon. I think moving away will be beneficial for us. It's something my elder sister-in-law has advised us on. During the wedding planning, she was encouraging my wife to move and create our own space away from the family's isolating circle. I know my wife is more than just her family. I've seen it firsthand. She shines so bright when away from their influence. That's what I meant when I said she was the most loving, unselfish, and decent person I've ever met. If I'm being honest, I don't know how things will turn out. I'm still hurt. I still feel betrayed. And my wife's facing her own challenges with low contact, but I want to be hopeful. I don't want to close the door. I'm hoping we can heal together. Thank you again to everyone for the support. I found not everything is as isolating as with the majority of my in-laws. It means more than you know. Honestly, I think moving away is the best decision they can make. It's helpful to see OP's wife take proactive steps to protect her marriage and protect her son. Also, the comment from OP's younger sister-in-law about his wife being old and settling is out of pocket because his wife is 30, their son is 2. So again, I'm not sure how she's settled because of age, which is ironic because the 28-year-old sister-in-law is the same age as the wife was when she had her son. So I guess she's old too now. I wonder how she feels about that. Anyway, I would like to know what you guys think. Personally, for me, this is one story I'm hopeful and optimistic will turn out okay. I do appreciate that it will be hard for OP's wife to go low contact with her family, especially when they have raised her to think family comes first, which is ironic because she's actually putting her family first and they're upset about it. But do let me know what you guys think and if you think this will work out. In the meantime, I'm going to take a sip from my tea and then we'll move to the next story. This next one's posted under the Relationship Advice subreddit by Suspicious Rock 1661. They say, my husband, 32 male, left me, 32 female, after almost 15 years together and wants me to forget and let him come home. What are my next steps to stop that? My husband and I have been married for almost 2 years, but together for almost 15. He is my only long real boyfriend I have had in my adult life, and we have 2 children together. We have had a rocky relationship from the beginning, if I'm being honest, but the last 3 years have, for the most part, been pretty great. The turning point for our relationship, I feel, was after he got blackout drunk at his friend's wedding and spent the entire 1.5-hour drive home that I drove him and his friend home from as I was sober, screaming at me and saying nasty things. Since then, things have been pretty good. I have been working on myself, I have lost weight, putting more effort into myself and my appearance, and have been making new friends. About 5 months ago, he woke up one day and told me he wasn't happy with his life or me and wanted to leave. He then decided he was wrong and didn't want to leave. Not to drag it on too much, but a highlight reel of the last 5 months is he has left me 4 to 5 times and come back every time saying he's sorry. Been unhappy when I have gone for dinner or to see girlfriends. Got blackout drunk again and behaved horrendously towards me. I can't really talk about it on the thread. The same night as above, there was some severe drama with his family. I'm also being made to be the villain for telling them this behavior is disgusting, especially since our 2 children were asleep in bed when everything was happening. Called me every name under the sun, often in front of our children. Accused me multiple times of having affairs with absolutely no suspicions. I did not realize a few of the things cannot be discussed here. His excuses are that he doesn't feel loved enough by me and I'm not affectionate enough. But it's hard to feel affectionate to someone who is treating you like crap. I am getting very little family support and being made to feel guilty for breaking our family up if I don't let him come back home. But he is never going to change. I guess I'm just looking for some validation and support that I'm making the right decision because I keep being told I'm wrong. What are my next steps to stay strong in my decision to not take him back and try and establish a healthy co-parenting relationship for our children? First of all, I am so sorry OP has gone through what they've gone through. They mentioned in their post that for the last 3 years things have been good. If this is what they consider a good relationship, then I cannot imagine what the last 12 years have been like for them. If I were to advise OP on how to stay strong in their decision, I would say aim at cutting direct contact with the husband, and that can be done by instructing lawyers, for example, and letting them deal with all conversations and correspondence. I do hope OP stays firm in her decision to leave this man because not only is it abusive for her, people often forget that exposing children to abusive environments is also child abuse. Such behavior by the dad should not be normalized for the children. They deserve to grow up in an environment where they are taught to use kind words on others and to relay your feelings without feeling the need to say hurtful and harmful things to another person. The fact of the matter, as OP has correctly put it, is he's never going to change. And the people blaming OP for breaking up the family are delusional and have fed into the husband's behavior. Because how can you blame the victim for walking away and not blame the instigator of the abuse? For me, I do think this is a situation where divorce is the only option and the only way to protect herself and protect her children from future harm. Because IDK365 says, he's cheating on you, FYI. And in response, Medical Telephone 59 says, yep, projection and misdirection. It is why he keeps leaving and coming back, leaving, coming back, and accusing you of cheating, etc. I hope you are recording all his abusive yelling fits, documenting everything, dates, times, screenshotting text messages, saving voicemails, storing everything safely in a fresh, unused email address he doesn't know about. And then they provide a link to an article about why people do what they do, specifically why abusive partners do what they do. And I do have to say I agree with this comment. It's very common for people who are cheating themselves to project heavily and accuse the other partner of cheating because it might be their guilty conscience, but it might also be the subconscious thinking that if they can do it to someone, then someone else can do it to them. I will try to link that article that Medical Telephone 59 has provided in the description box below for anyone who might find it helpful. Fairy Goth Mommy says, say no, keep saying no, find an attorney, keep all conversations between the lawyers, file for immediate custody pending divorce, separate finances, do what the lawyer says, action, first and best steps to staying strong. And OP responds, I actually don't even know how to begin separating our finances as everything we have is basically tied up to our business. So OP does coming with their first update. Just over 2 weeks later, they say, I just wanted to firstly say thank you to everyone for all your responses. I can't tell you how much they've helped me through this time, and every time I was struggling, I went back and looked at them all. I just wanted to address a few things mentioned in the comments and then give an update, so skip to the end if you just want the update. I have spent the last few weeks really thinking about our relationship and the dynamics, and honestly, it's difficult to really think about and embarrassing to think I've allowed this for so long. Some background to our relationship and dynamics of my life. We started seeing each other at 15, and on reflection, I can see that he was pressuring me even back then to do what he wanted. For example, pressuring me into losing my virginity when I didn't want to. But thankfully, a friend intervened for me. I grew up in a house filled with domestic violence and an extended family that was very dysfunctional from trauma. Around the time we first met, my stepdad, who raised me and separated from my mom about 3 years prior, told me his new partner didn't like me calling him dad, and she was turning my bedroom at his house into her spare room for when her family came to visit, and essentially ended with him abandoning his dad role in my life. The night we started dating at 17 was, in hindsight, deeply troubling. We had been at a local function and had been friends. I was speaking with a mutual friend leading up to this night, and we snuck away to spend time together. When we came back to the function, our mutual friends were laughing about it, and he started screaming at me in front of everyone, hooking up with his friend when I knew he liked me and that I'm a B-word. I followed him out to apologize, no idea what I was apologizing for now, and ended up in a relationship with him. He habitually lied to me about using illicit substances throughout the years. He knew it was a hard limit for me as my relative had passed away from an OD. I know to some people it is a bit ridiculous as it's pretty normal where we are from, but I didn't want to be involved with it in the slightest. He caused friendship breakdowns because friends would come to me and tell me he was using substances. He would deny it and tell me they were lying, and I would end up in arguments with them. He admitted 2 years ago to lying about it because he could see my viewpoint had changed and I was more accepting of it. Our relationship was great for the last 2 to 3 years, 1 to 2 years before our marriage and 1 year after. But on reflection, I realized it was because I was just being more obedient to him. I was basically a married single mom and handled everything at home, worked in our business, and was the primary parent for our children. Okay, now for the update. I saw everyone's comments about leaving him and running and divorce. That is definitely my plan, but I'm trying to be smart about everything and not rush it and do it on impulse. After my last post, I did cave to his pressure and allowed him another chance. I told him that I was going to visit my friend's new apartment in the city and go for dinner together. He lost it and tried to forbid me from going. I told him I wasn't asking for permission, I was just letting him know. He was yelling and carrying on in front of our children that I either be husband and wife again or he's leaving right now. I was just overwhelmed and trying to get him to stop, so I agreed. He also admitted to going through my phone to look at my messages with my friend because he didn't trust what I was saying. But shock and horror, a week later, he left again. So, we're currently not together. He keeps apologizing and telling me he loves me and regrets the things he was saying to me. He keeps asking me, so are you done or do you want to be with me? I reminded him that he left and we are currently not together. I said, without real change behavior, I am not willing to be together. I know that he will not be able to do that because I now realize that I think he's a narcissist, or at least pretty close. In the meantime, I have been recording many of our conversations and interactions. I am meeting with a lawyer and speaking with an individual counselor and trying to get my house in a state for sale without it being obvious. I also forwarded many of our business financial documents to a separate email in case he restricts access to them. His work email is also on my computer as I handled most of his correspondence. And a few days ago, he had an email from Snapchat about some password change or something. Not really a huge deal, I guess, but I'm pretty confident there's either another specific girl in the picture or he's having casual intimacy. If there's anything else I should be doing, anything you want clarified, or any thoughts you have, I'd love to hear it. And thank you all again. OP then posts a second update, and they say, "Hi all, I wanted to post an update for everyone who gave me advice in my previous post and helped me through a really difficult time. My soon-to-be ex-husband has been gone from our home for 2 weeks now. It has been 2 weeks filled with crash outs, love bombing, and everything in between. But I have held firm and told him I'm completely out of the relationship and want a divorce. I have bought new security cameras for the time being, but I want to sell our house and buy my own place as soon as possible. But separating our finances is going to be so difficult. I know I'm only at the very beginning of the journey, but I am feeling so proud of myself and strong in my resolution. And honestly, I haven't even missed him once yet. I feel free. The kids and I can be at home and do what we feel like without worrying if he will have a problem with it. There's no more yelling at home. It's just peaceful. So thank you again for your advice. I probably won't have another update, but thank you all. And if you have any tips or tricks for negotiating custody agreements and divorce, that would be great. I can't tell you how much you all helped me push through the hardest part." Honestly, I am so proud of OP. It is so hard to leave a toxic and abusive relationship. I read somewhere, I believe, an article that said about 75% of the women who try to leave abusive relationships end up being unalived by their partners that they were trying to leave. So it does take a lot of courage to not only make the decision to leave the relationship, but also follow through with that decision. I'm happy that OP is making plans and having arrangements to move forward. And I would love to know what you guys think about this story. In the meantime, I'm going to take a sip from my tea and then we'll move to the next story. We are now going over to the AITAH subreddit with a post by HauntingBeauty229, and they ask, "Am I the a-hole for telling an exchange student to not date my son and possibly ending my marriage?" This post is the last post in the compilation of stories for a reason because it has so many trigger warnings, So the trigger warnings are conversations around abuse, SA, grooming, racism, misogyny, and child abandonment. Back to the story. So I, 40 female, have 2 children, my daughter Liz, 12, and my son Toby, 19. I'm going to be honest, Toby has become a perverted degenerate. Because Toby is his son, my husband, 54, tended to spoil Toby a lot and indulge his interest, which included 18+ movies and my husband's stash of old Playboys. My husband would say, "He's a teenager, let him be," despite me telling him that Toby was going to be a degenerate. This was especially true for Asian women. We had an Asian cleaner, we're pretty well off, who Toby would hit on and harass until she smacked him across the face when he tried to lift her skirt. My husband wanted to press charges, but I threatened to divorce him if he did, and I would make sure everybody knew what a pervert Toby was. I made sure to give her a nice bonus before referring her to a friend, and then hired an older man in her place. Toby sulked for 3 months following that. I can already hear the comments, "Why threaten divorce when you could just do it?" And it's because I didn't want to uproot Liz. I have been saving a small chunk of the weekly grocery money since she was born and have a lot saved in a secret account. I originally planned to get the best divorce lawyer once Liz goes to college and leave him, but considering everything that happened these past few hours, I may need to move my plans up. I realized I was basically groomed not long after Toby began exhibiting that problematic behavior. And I think fetishizing exotic women is hereditary, as my husband is white and I am Latina. Most of the community know that I was groomed, so I have a lot of friends in the neighborhood because of it. They serve as my eyes, and it keeps Toby in check while in public, something that he makes clear annoys him. Anyway, our neighbor recently had his prior exchange student come back for a visit he hosted a few years back. For the sake of the post, I will call her Kimmy. Kimmy is incredibly bright and happy. She's always smiling and waving at people in the street. This would be all fine and dandy if she hadn't done so to Toby, who she caught coming back from hanging out with friends. She was on my neighbor's front porch having tea with my neighbor's wife when they caught each other's eyes. To be honest, Toby was smitten, but I didn't trust it. I noticed that he and Kimmy would talk for hours on the porch the following week, and we had her over for tea a few times over the course of that week. Liz absolutely adores her, and the two would talk about fashion and the newest anime and manhwas. I have no idea if I spelled that right, but the Korean version of manga. Fast forward to 2 days ago, and we're having tea with Kimmy, my neighbor's wife, and I. Kimmy asked if she could possibly date Toby, and both the neighbor's wife and I froze up. I put down my cup and I was blunt. I told her Toby was a lot like his father in the fact that he doesn't see women as a gentleman should. I brought up the Asian maid and told her Toby may look at her the same way, even if he doesn't seem to right now. I explained that my husband was the same way, love bombing and cherishing me, and I realized too late the kind of man he was. My neighbor's wife cut in, saying that she knows I had tried to set Toby straight, but some nature is too strong to change. I then finished saying that if she did decide to date Toby, I would be honored. I also informed her that I would have her back if Toby ever tried to pull anything shady, and so would most of the neighborhood. Kimmy silently nodded, seemingly understanding. Now, Kimmy is ignoring Toby. She came over this morning to pick up Liz for a shopping day, and Toby tried to say hi, but she ignored him and told me goodbye before Liz shut the door. Toby mumbled a slur while pouting, and I had enough. I rolled my eyes and said something along the lines of, "And that's why I warned her about you." I honestly didn't mean to slip up, but I was exhausted from not sleeping. I have chronic migraines, and Toby looked at me, and it looked like a heartbreak. But I looked at him straight in the eyes and told him, I tried to make you a gentleman, but you and your father kept acting like perverted a-holes. If you want to blame anybody, blame your father. He allowed you to become this way. Toby stormed to his room, and I got a text from my husband an hour later, asking why I would sabotage my own son like that. I texted back basically saying the same thing, that I had enough of Toby looking at women like objects, and that if he had been a good father, I wouldn't view my son as a pervert. We had a chance to fix his behavior, but he enabled him. My husband is now furious with me, and Toby has yet to leave his room. Liz and Kimmy are still out, and I texted my neighbor's wife to ask if the two can sleep over at her place, since I have a feeling that my husband is already going to start a fight with me. The neighbor offered to come over and act as a mediator and shield. He's a big guy, and I took him up at that offer. I'm shaking, I'm scared, and I probably imploded my marriage. All because I warned a very kind girl about the kind of boy my son is. I feel like I'm about to throw up. I have no idea what my husband is going to do or say. All I know is he's mad, Toby is mad, but Liz and Kimmy are safe. My neighbor said he's going to be over before my husband gets home, and I honestly am left wondering if what I did was actually for the best. Am I the a-hole for warning an exchange student about my son and ruining my marriage? Call the police. I'm not even kidding. Call the police. At this point, just call the police, call the Navy, call NASA, call anyone. Just get him away from me because I can't deal with the husband. OP needs to divorce her husband yesterday. I appreciate her wanting to not uproot Liz, but Liz is constantly being put in danger. Every day she is in that house as a 12-year-old girl with a perverted father and a perverted brother. You may think you are protecting her in the long run, but in the short term, is Liz really safe? I wonder if there are rehabilitation programs that can try to undo and unlearn the entire damage that his father has embedded in his brain. It is so tragic to see such a young boy be so damaged by his father. And whilst I appreciate her being aware of her husband's behavior, your daughter and your son do not deserve to be raised in that environment. As much as you say he's a degenerate, he didn't get this way overnight. I hope these two children get the help they need, and I hope OP gets a divorce from the toxic man that is her husband. Burnt Chips 444 says, I think my jaw literally hit the floor when he responded to her guardedness with a slur. For a fraction of a second, I nearly felt bad for this kid, but all sympathy got sucked dry with that one. I do think you need to rethink your current living situation regarding you and your daughter though. You are well aware that you live amongst perverts, and I'm sorry, but your daughter is 12. As sick as this sounds, she is not safe around your son now, and she's not going to be safe around him, period. At 16, 17, 18, y'all gotta go. You're not the a-hole, but you will be if you continue to let your daughter live in this type of environment. Writing Dreams 2 says, not the a-hole, and holy crap, get the entire Calvary. The entire neighborhood is going to want a piece of him if he hurts you. I'm so sorry this is happening to you, OP. Does Liz know her brother is a pervert? And OP responds, you're sweet, thank you. Liz does know. She never has friends over because she is scared Toby will try something. What is going on in this house? And under that, a deleted user then responds, I don't think you know what this means. Your daughter is 12. Her friends are around that age. If she feels like she needs to protect her 12-year-old friends from her brother, that means there is a whole lot more going on that you are not aware of. When you get the chance, talk to Liz and let her explain what happened for her to want to protect her friends. Get ready to get the police involved. Additionally, in the comments, someone asked again if OP was sure that Toby hasn't tried something with his sister or any of his cousins, and OP says, my husband is an only child and all my family lives in my home country, so visits are rare. I don't think he's tried anything with his cousins, and even if he did, I'm pretty sure his uncles and male cousins would beat the crap out of him. I have talked to Liz. and she told me he's never done anything to her or her friends, but they say he gives off creep vibes and just watches them from a distance. Liz knows if anything does happen, I'm safe to talk to. Toby has assaulted people before. He was expelled from school twice before 16 for touching staff and peers. That was one of the first times I had him tested. So, he has a track record of this kind of behavior. It's why the whole neighborhood watches him. Ever since his second expulsion, he hasn't had any legal trouble. The people he assaulted before dropped the charges once he was expelled and settled out of court both times. OP's first update comes a little over a month later, and they say, "Hello everybody, I just wanted to clarify a few things before I update you all. Firstly, Toby is my son. I think a lot of people were under the impression that he was just my husband. I guess I worded that strangely. Second, everything I have done to try to prevent any form of escalation of Toby's behavior was dismissed by my husband. Any punishments were immediately reversed when he got home. Thirdly, I got Toby tested for any form of mental disability after his first expulsion. He's been expelled twice, and he is neurotypical as far as the tests go. I got him tested for ADHD, ASD, OCD, and BPD. Fourth, my husband has never been violent towards my children and I. If he is upset, he will direct that energy to something else or activity. Fifth, it feels like a lot of people thought I was stealing from my family by skimming money from the grocery budget, but it was just spare change and notes from after my shopping trips. It's not like I was stealing the entire grocery budget. And finally, yes, I can hear and understand the "why haven't you left?" or "why didn't you do this?" It has taken a lot of talking between my family, friends, and now you people of Reddit for me to realize Liz and I don't deserve this, especially Liz. So now for the update. I'm filing for divorce. I packed Liz up and took her back to my home country for girls' time with her cousins. While there, I made and had a virtual appointment with 2 different lawyers from the same firm. They are currently drafting the paperwork, but they also recommended I talk to a local law enforcement about a possible protective order against Toby and my husband. Given their behavioral tendencies, I may consider it. And before everyone comes after me for, quote, abandoning Toby, this hurts me too. But at this point, I have to protect Liz. And if I plan to have full custody of her, which the lawyers have said is highly guaranteed, if Toby continues to live with my husband, I need to separate myself from them. I'm still in my home country, talking to my family about everything. Just as I confirmed before, Toby hasn't gone after any of his cousins. I asked, since I needed any additional accounts for legal reasons. Right now, I'm okay, but honestly, I don't know if I'll update again. I just really want to put this entire situation at rest. So, I may see you guys again, or I may not. But thank you all for the support, advice, and courage. OP then posts a second update, and they say, "Hello again everybody. Just wish to keep everybody posted on the current situation and thank those who support me in this difficult time. This update is luckily more positive, and I'm happy to say that I am not giving up on Toby. I'm currently back in my husband's home country. I think people were under the impression I was going to take Liz back to my home country, but I have stated before that I don't want to uproot her. I just wish to look into legal matters and get my mind sorted. I had a few friends in the neighborhood who offered to let me and Liz move into their place, and I took one up on the offer. She lives closer to Liz's school, so it works out better that way. I served my husband divorce papers 2 days after my last post and moved Liz and I out the day of. And 2 days after we moved out, Toby was found lurking outside of Liz's school. He was having a mental breakdown and screaming and was detained for trespassing. As far as I know, and what witnesses have told me, and the police, he was a complete wreck. I was also told that he had been taken to the hospital for a psych evaluation and was placed in a 72-hour hold. I wasn't allowed to visit him, and according to the nurses and doctor, my husband made no attempt to visit him or even speak to the doctor. Toby was diagnosed with mixed personality disorder, as he showed classic symptoms from narcissistic personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder. His emotional breakdown came from the fact that I left, and when I was finally able to see him, it broke my heart. He kept crying and saying that he didn't know why he was like this, and I just held him. He hasn't cried that hard since he was a child, and it honestly gave me a slight sliver of hope that Toby could still be a part of my life. I sat in on his next therapy session, which is mandatory while in the facility, and he apologized for how he acted. But I told him that the apology came a little too late. I told him that I am happy he wants to get better, but I needed space. That our contact wouldn't be non-existent, just limited. One message I received actually told me that I could send him a voice message, and I think that is a wonderful idea. I told him that if he proved he could be better, we can have full-blown contact again. I am currently working with the doctors to find a suitable facility for him, as I made it clear that if he went back to my husband, he would never get better. I figured a voice memo a month or maybe a video call, just so he doesn't think I've given up on him. And in 6 months, maybe a year, hopefully he has the tools, coping mechanisms, and medicine he needs. I also helped him look at online classes just so he can branch out again and try to get an education. So that's where things stand right now. No updates on my husband. I don't know if he has got a lawyer or what he's planning. But I'm safe, Liz is doing good, and Toby is getting better. That's all I have for now. I realized I was too hard on Toby, and I plan to not only acknowledge that in my first video message, but apologize for it. A lot of the comments opened my eyes as to how hard I was on him, even though most of his behavior wasn't just his fault, but mine and my husband's, or I guess future ex-husband. Thank you all for your support, advice, and comments. Harsh or not, I'm glad I posted on here. I'm so happy OP is helping Toby get the help he needs. I'm also so happy that OP was proactive in protecting her and her daughter. But like she says in her update, Toby's behavior is a result of his upbringing. OP is now taking steps to correct that mistake. Toby seems to be having a breakdown, realizing that his actions have consequences. I would love to hear from you guys and know what you guys think about the story. But besides that, we have come to the end of today's scroll down the rabbit hole. I do want to say a huge thank you for sticking around and watching to the end. It means a lot to me and helps the channel grow. And I do hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you did, please consider giving it a like and maybe subscribe if you'd like to see some more of my content. I will try to post every Monday. I'm not entirely certain how that will work logically, but for now I think I can post every Monday. So if you would like to get notified of when I post, you can hit that little bell icon down below, and that will notify you every time I make a post or a short story on YouTube. Finally, if you have your own questions, if you have your own stories or your confessions, we have our own subreddit, which is r/AshleyReddit. So feel free to post on there, and you never know, your story just might be in the next video. Until next time, keep it nosy and keep it cozy. Ashley read it, and now so did you.